want attacking purpose for football all the time. Now we've got our backs against the wall and we're going to fight, and we're going to fight hard. You've got to show me all the guts and all the determination you've got in your body. You've got to inspire me.
A marvellous kick. That's as good as you'll ever see. And puts Graham back in front.
I don't know about you guys, but if I see one bloke walking out of here, give the pat on the back from people out there for a good effort, I'll spew up.
From inside the centre square, Boyd kicked the goal. Boyd kicked the goal. From inside the centre. I can't believe that.
Hey Pack, welcome to Danny Boyd. It's a podcast about a certain football club that we all love. Footscray Football Club. They trade as Western Bulldogs. Danny McGinley's here. Tom Boyd is also here inside Mission Control Centre.
It does feel like the first time this year, and I'm sure it's not, that we are 2 wins on the trot. I know it's not. But
no, it's not.
It does feel like that a little bit.
Feels different this time,
doesn't it?
It feels like we're really gelling, even though that last quarter against North was very squeaky bum time. We won. We got the job done. That's what good teams do. We got Port this week. Man, it's weird. All these Dogs fans were annoyed that Port beat St Kilda and knocked us out of the 8. But if Port had lost, Hinkley could have been gone, and then we play...
Yeah, the interim coach, and everyone always wins that game.
They do. And, man, do you remember, 2019? I think it happened to us, 3 or 4 times. We kept playing clubs just after they sacked their coach.
Yeah. David T came in for a bit with Carlton, and they were unbelievable for a short period of time.
Yep. Brad Scott left North, and they
GWS, when Leon left last year or the year before. Look, I also, absolutely shamelessly think we should plug what's obviously happened here today, which is that we have spoken to Norm Smith Medallist Johannisen.
Well, they'll know that. That'll be in the show notes.
Yeah, I know, but we haven't told them that the most important question, the question that has always been asked, which the media manager, Elliot, who's just walked in, will not like to hear that we asked, is that, who should have won the Norm Smith? Jason answered it. Sorry.
He did.
In a very diplomatic way.
It will be on the Patreon. Elliot, would you like to, can we chat to you? This is media manager Elliot Raiter. How long have you been at the club?
Nearly 3 years.
3 years, all right. Put the microphone right up there. I know you, oh, wait, no, I didn't turn it on. That's my fault. That's my fault. We've just found out you're our man to get players on the pods. Who can you get us, everyone?
Nearly, I reckon. Nearly. There's a couple that are a little bit shy.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, generally speaking, Tim English is not the biggest media darling on the planet, but
particularly at the moment.
Yeah, particularly at the moment in contract. He's probably the only one that's very shy, but most are pretty readily accessible. Yeah, they're good.
The bit in the most that aren't the other bit. If you have most being more than 50%, the less than 50% is the captain who's got 500 things to do.
Yeah, but we're still going to ask for Bond. Can you get us Bond?
The captain's a post-win operation, I reckon.
Yeah,
okay.
We did speak to Kylie Watson-Will, our wonderful president, the other day, and she said, "Oh, has any players come on the pod yet?" And I was like, "No, we haven't been able to get any booked in." And she goes, "Well, who do you want?" I'm like, "Who do you think we want?" And she goes, "The big man." I was like, "Yes, of course we want." How have you found it? You've been with us for how long now?
Yeah, 3 years. Yeah,
3 years. How has the last 3 years been? I feel like you've been through some good moments in time in terms of being a media manager of a club when things are going well. Great job. When things are going not that well, can be challenging.
Yeah. It's this is one of those places where there's always something in a different regard, good, bad, or indifferent. But no, great. We've got really great staff. We're led really well, clearly, by people like Amit and Kylie. The players are really accessible. The coach is a very interesting person, and I've learnt a lot from. Just small things about Bevo, like the best remember of names you'd ever meet your whole life. That's something that struck me straight away. He would know everyone's name. He'll meet you once, he'll remember your name forever. But the way that he goes about it, the passion that he has for this footy club, for the players, even as recently as last night, we obviously saw what he does.
For those who didn't hear, he went on AFL 360 and tore Robbo a new one because he didn't know his facts, accusing our Cody of diving. Robbo. See, Robbo and I have the same dentist, and so I assume that he's just had a bit more Novocaine than normal, and he's just hallucinating some things.
How do you find it with certain players at the club who obviously incite a lot of attention? Like we've obviously got Bailey, who's just an absolute anomaly in the league to start with, but Cody's taken a lot of criticism over the years, and Luke is another one who quite clearly has been either in direct combat with people at different stages or indirect combat. How do you manage that ongoingly, or do you feel like that's just a peripheral bit of noise and you can manage the conversations from there?
I think the important thing is for me to be across sort of all of it, and for them to sort of not be, in a sense, that for them to know the right thing to say, to understand what's being spoken about. But I always encourage Luke and people like Cody, people like Marcus, not to read too much, because there's a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot to take in. Everyone has an opinion. People are paid for an opinion. You know, Robbo's paid for an opinion, so that's fine.
It's his job.
That's his job. So for me, it's about me being able to give them the tools that they need to speak.
Yep.
When they do. And for Bevo, that's weekly. So he just needs, a general understanding
of what the conversation is.
Yeah, correct. And where it's placed, and he'll have an opinion, and that's fine. And sometimes it's stronger than other times, but I think for people like Cody and Baz, the noise is the noise. They understand it. They understand that that's the industry they're in. For them, it's probably created a lot of other opportunities externally to footy for both of them. Probably more for Baz, but also for Cody. So it comes with the territory. If you're going to do that stuff, you need to understand that there's going to be opinions on you. And as long as they concentrate on the footy each week, then I've done my job.
Yeah, I think the way I've described it to people is that in an attention economy, if you want that attention, the fact that it's going to be all positive is fairyland. It's never going to be the case. Yeah. But having said that, the number one question that I do get asked about people is, all the players get all this media training, which I've always said is not true. Like, I've never had any media training, like formal sit down, let's practice your lines. But what you're saying, I think, is much more the way that I think they misinterpret media training to be, here's the key talking points, here's probably what they're going to ask you about. If they ask you this curly question about, say, Bailey or about Luke or any of those topics that are a bit harder to answer without sharing things you shouldn't, here's some of the ways that you can approach. Is that more what the media training in your eyes is? Yeah,
I think so. And I think for me, it's about having them best prepared for every interview. I think that's the key thing. To your point, whether it's dot points, whether it's we just want to know what's being said. The other bit is some guys are more natural at it than others. So like Cody, as an example, is a really strong media performer. Even Baz is a really strong media performer, Bond. But then there's some younger guys who are just starting out who need a little bit more guidance on what to say, what's the right thing to say. Boydie, like you get better the more you do it. Like, it's just that's the reality. Like the more you do it, and the more radios you do, and then you just, in my position, you sort of hand pick. So some people like doing TV. For Bond, like he doesn't do a huge amount. He does enough, and that you want numbers. So you want people watching on broadcast. You want 300,000 people watching. If he does SEN, you want him on the trademark show. Whereas, there might be another person that does RSN, still important to hear from our fans and members, but, it's not Bond necessarily.
Yeah, for sure. I think the other thing is that it is challenging to get these guys as they go up from, say, being an 18-year-old, to your point. The first phase is like just get them confident speaking, because getting the words out isn't always something that happens through your under 18s or junior careers. But then I think the other part is that, to your point around, say, like people who are at the level of Bont and Bevo, they need to understand the dynamics that are kind of going on behind the scenes around what, references they make can drive the next big story for a positive or a negative reason. The big things that are being talked about, which clearly the media is fixating on at the moment. And the great challenge with this whole model is, and the way that it's probably accelerated since when I played, is a story starts on a Monday, it goes till a Tuesday afternoon, a Tuesday evening, and then everyone, basically in the whole wide media coverage space has their piece on it. And then it disappears over the next few days. And whilst the media moves on, the players are left to deal with the sort of fallout of their lives being tipped upside down and the footy public's opinion being drastically changed by that 2-day period. Do you talk to some of the guys about how they can interact and deal with that stuff, or is it, in your mind, just something that is all part of the game?
Well, I think they're going to, with the way social media is now, they're going to come across most things, in whether indirectly or directly, they're going to read stuff. So your challenge is probably to get them to not absorb it to that level. Mental health's clearly a massive thing in the game now. I genuinely believe that the media stuff contributes to that.
It does, yeah.
No doubt. So my job is to make sure that guys are comfortable enough with what's happening without, getting obsessed with reading it. But the way it works, you scroll Instagram, you see a quote from Mark Robinson on AFL 360. You might not have watched it, but Cody would have seen it.
Yeah, and they picked the most visceral part of that interview.
Yeah, correct. So for me, it's just about guys understanding people's roles too. Like, okay, well, this is the media's role. This generates money. The broadcast deal is $1 billion.
Yep.
So it needs to exist. How do you coexist with that in train? How do you give them what they want, without selling the farm?
Yeah, I always found, like, in my opinion, the mental health side of the media is not the actual writing itself. That's no fun to read, don't get me wrong, but you can avoid a lot of it. The problem that I found, particularly through times in my life when I was under a lot of pressure and there was a lot of being written and said about me and talked about on TV, was that you'd walk into Joe Blogs down the street and their opinion would already have been dictated by whatever SEN or Channel 7 or whoever had been talking about. And that human relationship just starts off on the complete wrong foot with not in reality. And that's where I found the load from that side of things really hitting home.
Yeah, Rory Lobb is an example of that. I think he's a great person. Yep. Never says no. He's got always the best intentions at heart, and
he's a teammate of mine.
He's probably been harshly dealt with, I reckon. Mm-hmm. Clearly hasn't been playing, and but you wouldn't know it in here. Like the way he walks around and carries himself is amazing for a person that would probably be expecting to play AFL footy at 31 or 32, however old he is. So I think he's a prime example where the media probably have shaped him a certain way, but if you actually met him and had a beer or a coffee with him, you go, oh, this guy's a really nice fella.
Yeah, I've been lied to.
I've been lied to. Yeah.
Would he be the biggest surprise for the average listener of our pod who doesn't, sees the players on TV but doesn't know them personally? Would he be? Is there another player that would really surprise you?
You just go to the people that are sort of whipping boys, I guess, of the squad a bit at times, and he's clearly one of them. Look, most of them are pretty good blokes. To be really honest, there's not too many that you find difficult in dealing with.
You're not going to last in a club environment if you're a dick.
No, and I think everyone's got personality, but part of this club, and everyone says it now, is you want people to bring out their personality regardless of who they are. But he's just one of recent times where I'm a WA boy, so sort of came across Rory a bit in Freo when he was at Freo, and same sort of stuff. And since coming here and actually building a relationship with him, it's just a lovely person. And you forget that. Sometimes you forget that then they're just footballers,
just people.
Yeah, they're just people. He loves his golf. He's got his own little YouTube video vodcast thing now, and we help him a bit with that at the club and things like that. So that's just the reality. But guys like Cody, really outgoing,
very generous with his time.
Yeah, correct.
Very good with kids.
Yeah,
they all love him.
Seen that firsthand.
One final, I know, Boydie, you've got a meeting very soon, but Elliot, so help us as Bulldogs fans to help reward media that is kind. Is there any journalists or publishers that you think very ethical and have actually helped the Bulldogs with some, not cheap shots or anything? Should I buy The Age? Should I buy the Herald Sun? Should I tune into SEN? Where can I put my eyeballs and, that will support good media types that will help the club? Yeah,
I think our thing that we do here quite well is we deal with individual journalists that, Herald Sun's obviously got 10 to 12 journos, so there's always something written. But someone like Glenn McFarlane wrote a great piece on Bevo at the start of the year.
Great. Who's he work for?
He's at Herald Sun, Glenn McFarlane. He's been sensational. Josh Gablich is a really big supporter of the Bulldogs at AFL.com.
Man, he is. I only heard him on the podcast. I only saw a photo of him. He is ridiculously attractive.
Yeah, and very good friends with actually some of the Dogs boys.
Yeah.
So he's a St. Kevin's guy.
Yeah, St. Kevin's boy. So he went to school with Libber and Mitchie Wall. And he's another one that's very supportive of the Bulldogs. Does a great job with us.
Profile pieces too. He focuses on the people more than say like let's talk about this like free kick count for the week.
Yeah, and then probably the other one that breaks stories is a very good journalist. Mitch Cleary's always been pretty good to us recently in recent times, in my time here anyway. He's always sort of been pretty fair, and there's a story to break, he'll break it. But he's done some good pieces over the journey. So
back in the day, he used to be the guy you didn't want to see at the front gate. Before he got his
now he's the boss.
Yeah, he's the boss. He's moved up the ranks. He used to be the one standing there on a Sunday morning, and he'd be like, "I don't want to do this, Tommy." But
and who do we hate? Who are the worst journalists? No, I'm not going to.
No, you can't do that. Okay. We all know.
Yeah. Well, let me put it this way: we all know the environments where the worst part of journalism comes out. And there's a few, whether that be on radio or television, where it's this spin cycle of anger and frustration, and let's make everyone want to punch their screens.
Yeah, it's a very challenging job. Like you got to go to football clubs when they're under a lot of pressure, and it's not always a fun place to be. And we've been in that position a couple of times this year, so you don't envy what they have to do. But ultimately, Dogs fans should remember that it is just their job. They're actually humans too, and sometimes...
They've all got families and mortgages just like everyone else.
Yep.
Well, before we wrap up, Elliot, there's a question that we ask a lot of our guests here, and thank you for just coming on and chat. This wasn't planned, but it's great to get to know the people, the cogs in the machine who make this great football club happen. Who do you think should have won the 2016 Norm Smith?
It's a good question. I think Bont still thinks he should have won it. That's what he tells me anyway.
Yeah, I've heard that one before too.
Bont or Boydie would probably be the two, but JJ...
Matthew Boyd was very good that day. That's right.
JJ would comfortably tell you that he was a deserving winner. So,
he did actually. He said he was very diplomatic. He said a few of us could have won.
We'll find out.
We'll leave that onto the Patreon to see what he actually said.
We did actually ask the elephant in the room, but it is for Patreon subscribers only. Starts at only $5 a month. I mean, what a bargain. If you want to hear what JJ has to say. Anyway, Boydie, are we going to beat Port? Okay, let's ask you, Elliot. Playing Port this week, how are we going to win?
Yeah, it's going to be a massive game. It's probably the biggest game of the year, to be honest.
8 point game.
I think they've got a few injuries forward of the ball, which will help us. We play Adelaide Oval very well. We've lost a few games there recently, but we play the Adelaide Oval really well. They're a big midfield contest team. I think if we beat them in the contest, Horn Francis, Butters, Rosie, if we can get on top of them, I think we'll win.
Is Ollie Wine still playing there? I know I should know that.
I think so, yeah.
Okay, he absolutely should not have taken the Brownlow off Bont in 2021. So let's target him.
Your fan questions put our great club members in such binds because they can't comment on any of this stuff. And you always just go, as a fan, you should really throw everyone under the bus and agree with me.
I agree.
So no comment is a good comment there, but thank you very much. And we're really looking forward to being able to chat with as many players and yourself throughout the rest of the year.
No worries, you guys do a great job.
Boydie, this is your first time in the sort of players area, the top secret area since the Renos. You were walking around just going, wow, I retired at the wrong point.
These guys are all a bunch of pricks is what I was walking around thinking. I actually did walk in, and we do have a very special guest here, Jason Johannisen.
Hey, JJ.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Now, Jason, the first and only question I really need to ask is, do you take all of this change and all of this development that you can see right here today, do you walk around to the younger boys and just say, do you know that the only reason you've got this is because we won a flag in 2016? Because I walked in and I said that, and I'm retired, so...
Yeah, that's... I wish Bigsy was still around.
Yeah,
he'll definitely be telling him, but no, I haven't yet, but... I think they know deep down.
Yeah, the club's come a long way, hasn't it? Like, this is such a different environment to the one that we walked into back in. Because when did you start, Jace?
This is my 14th year, so I'm in 20, and I got drafted in 2010. So
you a rookie too?
Yeah, rookie first couple of years.
Yeah, rookie, and then had that whole Jeremy Cameron destroying his shoulder thing. I remember that like it was yesterday. One of the biggest hits I've ever seen.
Really?
Google it. Jason Johannisen gets smashed by Jeremy Cameron.
What number game was that for you?
Could have been my 4th year. It was in Canberra.
Canberra.
Yeah. Was it 2014?
Must have been the year before I got here, so 13. I'd say.
13.
It was the first year for the Giants, I think.
Yeah, I know. Priz was on the bench at the time, and he's like, I've never heard like the sound of that before. Because obviously in Canberra, not a big crowd.
Oh, really?
So the impact, was definitely heard.
So you coming in at the end of 2010, the end of a premiership window. How was the vibe around the club at that point, or was everyone just sort of thinking, "Oh, well, no, it's still good. It's still good."
Yeah, it was. Like obviously, as a kid coming in, you're just excited to be around, and obviously they played the year before in a prelim, so you're thinking, still, the window's still open, and just trying to put the work in and hopefully get a sniff. But
and as I recall, round 1 we get thumped by Essendon.
Yeah, well,
one of the worst losses in my history.
Yeah, got a couple definitely welcoming moments. I think halfway through the year they lost to West Coast at Subi by like 150 points, and the next day we're at Port Melbourne Beach, 5 a.m. in the morning, holding bricks. So
hang on, so you lost in Subi and then you're at Port Melbourne, so you've taken the red eye and
I was actually playing VFL with 2s. I was playing VFL reserves. We won by 100 points, and I'm still out here holding bricks.
What a rude shock to the system! Like
as it is, one in, all in. So, it was definitely a shock.
I feel like, though, you must have been through so many iterations of the Western Bulldogs, because to Danny's question around when you first arrived here, coming out of a premiership window, a couple of disappointing results, obviously in lost prelims, and then you're dealing with that. And then we go into, obviously, the big change that happens at the end of 2014 with Luke coming on board. We go on that great run to 2016. Then there's almost like a reiteration. Then COVID. Now we've got a brand new facility. Like 14 years, mate, you've just about seen it all.
Yeah, well, when you put it like that, like I don't really talk about it or think about it too much because, you know, as it is, time goes so fast. And even saying like I've been in the system for 14 years, it doesn't feel like that. It feels like I've been in here for 5-6 years. So, but yeah, thinking back, it's been a big journey and a wild roller coaster for sure.
Yeah, speaking of roller coasters, I feel like this year has been one of them. How have you seen the year across the course of the first?
A lot of our listeners might not. What's wrong with you? It's your hamstring.
Yeah, well, it was my hamstring, and then coming back during the rehab, I did my calf as well. So, as you know, rehab running is just a lot of plodding around, so your calves definitely feel the brunt of the work. But yeah, going to be back in for the Carlton game, so just going to load up this weekend, a match parameter session in rehab, and then I'll be good to go.
Jason, I don't like hearing 14 years and calf, because that just makes me think of Matty Boyd, who kept doing calf injuries towards the end of his career.
Yeah, everyone says old man injury, but I try to tell everyone that I've been doing soft tissues since I was 18 years old. So.
The other question is, how do you do a calf when you don't have any? That's my question for you. I don't understand that.
Yeah, it's definitely goes against the law of physics, I think.
I really like the symbolism that you're coming back against Carlton after a hamstring injury. When you did, I don't know if you remember, Boydie, I mean, you were a teammate at this, the greatest hamstring injury in the history of humanity. You ran about 50 metres, scored a goal from 50 on the run, celebrate, and then hobble off and don't return for 7 weeks.
Yeah, no, I would say
that was awesome.
60
metres. What year was, I feel like we were probably in rehab together at that stage.
Yeah, I think it was round 4.
Yeah. I did my shoulder, and we were in rehab together. That was 2016.
Yeah, 2016.
Good year.
10 weeks.
And one of the best all-time. Okay, all right. Actually, this was a message from one of our Patreons, Will, who's a TV producer in San Francisco. That's the reach we've got here, JJ.
This is big time, Jason.
This is a
worldwide.
So you come back, and then one of the best, again, one of the greatest comeback games of all time. You kick the winner against Sydney, 2016. Remember that? He's heard a rumour that Bevo, you come back after, 6 weeks out, 7 weeks out, 10 weeks out, and he goes, maybe you should play in the twos to ease your way in. You've talked him into giving you a go in the seniors. As apparently we've won that game, it's amazing. First thing you say to Bevo is, couldn't kick the winner in Werribee, mate. Is that true?
That's completely false.
Oh, no! You should have.
Isn't that good how someone's put themselves in your shoes and they're going, if I was the biggest dickhead possible, this is what I would say. And now everyone believes that it's true. It's reached San Fran.
Yeah, well, I definitely try to convince Bevo I was good to go. Definitely the 2 weeks prior to coming back, I was trying to look my best during training and trying to convince him that I was good enough to get picked. And lucky I was, but I could tell you I was underdone. And
and it was wet too, wasn't it? That game?
Oh no, that one was a dry one.
That was the dry one. Year before was wet.
Which did you prefer? That is a question. I know you kicked the winner in 16, but which win? Actually, you played in both.
The Sydney game was great. Yeah.
No, they're both Sydney.
Yeah, I know, but the one in 15, I didn't play in this one.
Oh, okay.
Because Bont squared it up to you in that 16.
Yep.
Yeah, and because actually in the footage, because I've rewatched it a fair few times, you're like, Bont, go for gold. But then you realise you can get a better angle.
Yeah, so he was in range and I literally just patted him on the back saying, through your routine, have a set shot. And then I saw this pocket of space just open up just in front and I was like, I might as well just sneak in there. Didn't think he would pass it because he's a pretty good kick for goal and it was in his range. So, but he liked it and rest is history, I guess.
Man, it was so good. It was so good.
Yeah, there were some very good games back at that stage. I also remember vividly during this recovery process, Jace, when we were out here on Whitten Oval at the stage running side to side because we were doing the sprints across the ground because we had this absolute headwind, as always. So we would never run up and down the ground because you'd be like running into 35k an hour winds, which is no good for hamstrings or anything. And this is all that would happen. I would go, and they'd be like, Tommy, I need you to push a bit harder, get your speed up. And then Jason's going like, Jason, slow down. You're only 3 weeks into your recovery. You're not going too fast. And then just be Stoney, I feel good, mate. Get me back out there this week.
Yeah, no, that's still the same today.
It's still the same.
I think Stoney's got me running into the wind these days, just as I keep the pace down.
So who is Stoney? Who is Stoney for us
Our
civilians?
rehab coordinator. So he, if you get injured, he's the one that heads up the program, and he's out there with you.
And he's been
the whole
there
time.
obviously since
the whole
2016.
time. And look, let's be very, very clear. Stoney has one of the hardest jobs in football, where he is always dealing with miserable pricks who are injured, frustrated, want to be playing, can't, are doing exercises they all hate. Like after pre-season, you're supposed to stop doing like running laps, and then you go back into rehab, and it's like, all right, today we've got a 10K session. It's 7 o'clock on a Saturday. Oh. It's 10 degrees. It's raining sideways, and also you need to go watch the VFL and the AFL later. And no one wants to be there. So Stoney is very much like a combination of rehab coordinator, therapist, counsellor, and like motivational speaker, I would say.
Oh, and is his demeanour quite nice, or is it like the drill sergeant in Full Metal Jacket? Just, you will run that case!
He's a positive person, always glass half full. And he's one of the main reasons that rehab isn't that bad, because he definitely tries to get the best out of you and help you during your journey in rehab.
So, Jace, back to my question, which Danny rudely interrupted before. This year has been a bit up and down. It's been an interesting ride, I would say. I feel like at times it's hard to remember a time when I would say, as an outsider now, going, we are in the bottom 4 worst teams in the comp, just for the way we played on the weekend, versus we are quite clearly one of the best teams in the comp, all within the space of about 8 weeks. Has it felt a bit like that internally, like the best is very, very good and we just can't seem to string them all together, though we seem to be in a much better spot now than we were 10 weeks ago? Yeah,
absolutely. Like, as you said, when we play our best, we're up there with the best in the competition, and there's no doubt about that. And then obviously we just, when we don't play our best, we look terrible. But I think, especially probably since the GWS game, there's been like a 6-week period where we've, played pretty consistent football, and we've looked pretty good. Health's come into that as well. Like we've lost a few through injuries, concussion, suspension. So I think going into the back half of the year, if we can get some continuity, I think, we can give it a real shake.
Yeah, I was at the Freo game, and that was a masterclass in how good we can play, particularly with a team that's, one of the stronger ones in the competition. They didn't even look like they were on the same page or in the same competition for stage of that game. Yeah,
and then they played Sydney, the flag favourites, a week later, and they demolished them. So using basic logic, we are now flag favourites.
It was a point in the end, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a point. Logan McDonald sprayed it, but that doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
Speaking of people who've been here for a while, Jason, how does Marcus get better every year? What is wrong with him? Because you said before, Marcus is a pretty good sex shot on goal. I would say that's the worst of his capability sets, and it's still significantly above average. Don't get me wrong. But how has it been watching him? Like, you've seen him from the first day that he walked into the club to the moment now where he's this veteran captain turning 29 and has played, 200 games, just an absolute superstar. What has that been like? Feel like we've been able to witness greatness here.
Absolutely witness grace. And like even over his last 2 games, he had the flu against Freo,
a sore back,
and then a sore back, and he still dominate. I'm like, he still surprises me to this day. So it's crazy. And like I tell everyone, like, and even like my kids or Lola's trying to get into footy now. I was like, I've played with like one of the goats of this generation, or definitely of this generation, but one of the goats of our football club, and he's just a legend, and he's a ripper bloke, and he'll do anything for this team, and I just feel blessed that I've been able to be his teammate and play quite a few games with him.
What does his leadership look like off the field? Because I think we see the buttoned up Bont who gets to talk on TV and say the couple of word catchphrases, which we all have to do. You have a short period of time to answer TV hits and media hits as well. What is it around the club that he provides that perhaps some of our fans don't get to see?
I mean, he's just brilliant at connecting not only with the individual but with the whole group as well. And I think he's not serious as well. He's not a serious leader. He's very laid back, does it in his own way, and he's all about having a good time as well. So like here and there he'll throw get-togethers at his place or at his cafe, just have a few beers with the lads and just make sure that connection's growing. And he's just an unreal captain, unreal leader, and it's so natural and authentic and organic. He doesn't try to be anyone else. So it's definitely one of his great skills.
I have wondered how Bont lives his life away from football. So you've been to his house. Is there surely there's embarrassing DVDs on the shelf, or there's got to be a flaw somewhere. Like he prefers Grease 2 to Grease 1. Like what? There's got to be something. When you're at his house, are you snooping around looking for a gun collection? I don't know. There's nothing. He's too perfect.
Yeah. No, I think he's only flawed at the minute. He needs a haircut. I don't know what he's doing.
I said this to him the other day. He told me he was going to grow it out like me. I'm like, Marcus, there's only a few people who can wear it like this,
that's my only flaw with him at the moment. I think he needs a haircut, but I don't think he's going to listen.
It's very much in the buff head stage, isn't it? But see, I would go the other way. I would imagine going to his house, he's like walking in and there's like a hyperbaric chamber on the way in the front door, and then there's a couch that like picks you up, spins you around and massages you while you watch TV or something. Because one of the great, Marcus Bontempelli traits is he is about as professional a person as you'll ever meet. He just dots every I and crosses every T.
You just reminded me, I heard another rumour, you guys can, about Daniel Cross. Did you play with Crossy?
Yeah.
All right, I heard a rumour.
This one's true.
This one's true?
I think if it's the one that I know, it's...
about the cars.
the one about the ball.
Yes. He would get his fiancée to hide balls in kitchen cupboards. So when he opens to get a bowl, just the ball falls out and he'd have to grab it. Is that? I'm surely
just knowing him personally, I think that would be true.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. I mean, if it's not true, it's so harmless that I think it should be. It's like like Steve Smith used to hide bats around his house, so then he'd have to magically pick it up and practice his strokes. Can you imagine living with these people? You'd accidentally try and rob the joint and he just whack you with a cricket bat halfway through an entrance.
Have you tried anything like that? What's the weirdest tactic you have tried? I mean, you didn't play Aussie rules till you were what age?
About 10, 11.
10, 11. You were playing rugby before that?
Yeah, so I was born in South Africa and then came across to Australia when I was about 8 years old and just only knew cricket and rugby. So that was the sports I first joined in and then, picked up footy a little bit.
You picked the right one, mate. Well done.
You're
a bit small for rugby.
Definitely.
Do you still follow the Springboks or?
Here and there. I know we won the last World Cup, which is nice.
Followed them then.
Yeah, when they win. Yeah. Even the cricket, South Africa just lost the World Cup to India. When we choked. So go for the Aussies.
So you still say we? That's good because I don't even get a hint of the accent.
I didn't pick up the accent at all. My wife says that when I speak to my parents, I sort of have a little twang.
That's normal.
But I don't notice it.
Nah, there's no. What is it? The car.
What's where are we going to finish, mate? We don't have forever with you here today, but it feels like we're either on the precipice of turning this into a remarkably successful season, given where we started, or it just sort of being a thereabouts year. Where do you sort of see us closing out the year, knowing what you know?
Yeah, I feel like definitely at this point in time, we have our identity and how we want to play.
What is that? Because I've explained it before on this podcast, but most people don't understand.
Well, so far in our games that we've really played really good football is when our pressure rating is very high and in the top 4 of the competition for that week. I think against the Kangaroos a bit off, but I feel like when our pressure game is on and the way we move the ball going into our forward line, I think no team can stop us because I feel like we've improved defensively with especially defensive transition and stopping teams from scoring. I think we've improved that and defending as a team. I think as long as we get our pressure around the source and use the ball well, I think we'll be very hard to win.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, having watched a fair bit of footy this year, my early diagnosis was it did feel a little bit like teams were walking through us. And after all this hard work, we were paying on the scoreboard and not getting a result from all of that effort. And I think what I was asking is the difference, I suppose, between identity and plans where, I think people think that being a good side in the AFL is around what game plan that you've got, but it's more around the identity of what the team is like, a high pressure side who has good source pressure around the ball, who's good contested ball winning side and also uses the ball moving forward effectively. That's not anything to do with the X's and O's that each game requires to obviously tweak around certain players who are playing good footy. So it's good to hear that we've got that going into the end of the year, and I can't wait to see you back out there, mate.
So it does sound like we're definitely going to win the flag. That's locked in. Yep.
Yeah, bookmark it.
Yes, sweet.
Buy tickets now.
One last thing. I know you want to wrap up, and I know you're being
No, I've got a
professional.
good way to finish, that's all.
Oh, okay, sweet. Well, let me just ask you this. I mean, you talk about standing up in the finals. Talk us through the goal. Johannisen, he's got the ball. He can run. No one between he and the goal, and you kick it to Bont. What are your memories of that fantastic passage of play?
Yeah, well, you remember that word for word.
Yeah.
He's a big fan.
Watched it a few times.
It's kind of scary at times.
To hit the front. The dogs hit the front. Anyway.
Yeah, it's obviously it was stuck in our sort of back half, and then Boydie tried to soccer it and get some territory, and it just come off the side of the boot, and it's landed about 10 metres in front of me, and it just bounced perfectly towards me, and I just, I was able to hit the ball at pace, which helped obviously, and then saw GWC player was able to step him, and then Buntney was just somehow all by himself. So I just tried to put it in front of him and let him do the rest.
He never looked slower, did he? And then just somehow licked it out with the left hand.
Couldn't bend down, just had to bounce the ball up to himself.
It was remarkable. But then who would you rather have it in his hands at that moment in time? There's no one. There's no one at all. Well, Jace, you may not want to think about the Norm Smith all the time, but please, as you are walking through these halls, just remember exactly why this development happened. That is a big part to do with you, mate, and that's what I'm going to keep telling myself. So,
you too as well.
Good luck getting back, mate, and we can't wait to see you back out there and a ripping hot finish to the year for the Dog Force.
Thanks for having me.
I gave my childhood to that roar of the red, white, and blue sea. And the knowledge that you had two loves, the Bulldog boys and me. 20 years on, I feel that longing hanging in September air. But the reason I go every week is to pretend you're still there. And they will find the glory one day, and I will throw it at your feet. It's a long, long road they're running for you, the dogs of Footscray streets. It's a long, long road they're running for you, the dogs of Footscray streets.